Hey cousin, welcome to CoCo Conjure. Here we talk about all things hoodoo, folklore, magic, wellness, and spiritual journeys. My goal is to provide a foundation for the novice and inspiration to the advanced practitioner. If you haven't guessed already, my name is CoCo. Cousin, I'm blessed that you found me. Please be sure to subscribe or follow the podcast wherever you are listening, and be sure to leave a like or a 5-star review. I promise you, I will in fact earn it. An essential part of hoodoo is doctoring through rootwork. The medicinal and spiritual effects of flora and fetishes allow us to heal wounds, navigate spiritual traps, and call in our blessings. No one root is more quintessential to hoodoo than that of High John de Conka. It's the first thing you hear about when you start down this path. There are candles, soaps, oils, sprays created in the name of the conqueror. And my favorite part, there are tons and tons of myths and legends around the root and its significance to the Black community. The general story you are more likely to come across is that High John was an African prince captured and sold into slavery. Once on American soil, he used his cleverness and wit to steal himself away from his master and to the shores where a ship was waiting to take him back to the motherland. But before he left, he placed some of his spirit into a root, so that even when his body was dust, those who remained on American soil would be able to call upon him during times of hardship. So, John de Conka is an ancestral spirit to all Black Americans to utilize in their practice. Not all ancestral spirits are like this. Some are passed from worker to worker or are specific to a family or a region. But High John is in fact one of us and works on behalf of us when we call upon him. Now, the general story I gave was kind of tame in comparison to how legendary ancestor Zora Hurston tells it. In her essay, High John de Conka, she writes, "He had come from Africa. He came walking on the waves of sound. Then he took on flesh after he got here. The sea captains of ships knew that they brought slaves in their ships. They knew about those black bodies huddled down there in the middle passage, being hauled across the waters to helplessness. John the Conqueror was walking the very winds that filled the sails of those ships. He followed them like an albatross. Old Massa met our hope bringer all right. And when old Massa met him, he wasn't going by his right name. He was traveling and touristing around the plantations as the laugh-provoking Brer Rabbit. So old Massa and old Miss and their young ones laughed with and at Brer Rabbit and wished him well. And all the time, there was High John the Conqueror playing his tricks of making a way out of no way, hitting a straight lick with a crooked stick, winning the jackpot with no other stake but a laugh, fighting a mighty battle without outside showing force, and winning his war from within. Really winning a permanent way, for he was winning the soul of the Black man whole and free. So he could, use it afterwards. For what shall it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? You would have nothing but cruel, vengeful, grasping monster come to power. John de Conqueror was a bottom fish. He was deep. He had the wisdom tooth of the East in his head. Way over there where the sun rises a day ahead of time, they say that heaven arms with love and laughter those it does not wish to see destroyed. He who carries his heart in his sword must perish. So says the ultimate law. High John the Conqueror knew a lot of things like that. He who wins from within is in the B class. Be here when the ruthless man comes, and be here when he's gone. He is not so well known to the present generation of colored people in the same way that he was in slavery time. Like King Arthur of England, he has served his people and gone back into mystery again, and like King Arthur, he is not dead. He waits to return when his people shall call again. Symbolic of English power, Arthur came out of the water and with Excalibur went back into the water again. But High John the Conqueror went back to Africa, but he left his power here and placed his American dwelling in the root of a certain plant. Only possesses that root, and he can be summoned at any time. Man, Zora was a lot more flowery than I was. Like I said, that comes from her essay, High John the Conqueror, or High John de Conka. That's how she says it. You gotta just not pronounce half of those consonants. But God, my favorite part of what she said is when she said he came walking on the waves of sound. Now, we can interpret that in a lot of ways, but I lean toward the idea that High John was like manifested into this world through the passing of legends and stories, even long before we came to the American shores. Now, Zora hints at this a bit in this essay. She basically draws a parallel between High John and all those Cunning John stories, all those Brer Rabbit stories that she captures from her subjects and writes down. The idea being, of course, that John was from no one plantation and from no one black subculture. You know, if a plantation was running and the black folks were working it, High John was only a breath away. Accessible through story and captured in a root so that our ancestors could continue to thrive. How did she say it? She said, be a part of the B class. Be here when the ruthless man comes, and be here when he is gone. Now, Katrina Hazzard took a different approach with her research into High John the Conqueror for her book Mojo, Workin. She honestly tries to find the actual John of High John, and she may have found her answer in Mexico. She started her search by looking at the native home of the root High John inhabits. The root itself is called the jalap root, and it's a type of morning glory root. The search led Hazzard to the mountains of Veracruz, where the story of an Afro-Mexican slave rebel, Gaspar Yanga, survives. According to Hazzard's research, Gaspar Yanga was a kidnapped member of one of the royal families in the African country Gabon. He went toe-to-toe with the Spanish, even during a time of mass executions, and he established a maroon community after a showdown in a nearby sugar field in 1570. And for 60 years after Gaspar and his Yanganistas fought for their survival, the community moved around a bit, but eventually survived and is now known as the city of San Juan Lorenzo de los Negros. Oof, that was a lot. San Lorenzo de los Negros. I don't know if my Spanish is that good. Anyway, Hazzard Donald writes, like High John, Yanga was a kidnapped African prince who cannot be broken. He made trouble for slave masters and managed to get the better of them, yet the Yanganistas' quest for freedom and the vision of hope they provided those still enslaved were tempered by the public executions in the area where jalap root grows most abundantly. So, maybe Gaspar Yanga or any of his rebel compatriots or some amalgamation of them are behind the myth of High John. And maybe as slaves were sold and moved, the story became a legend accessible to a community. But that's all like maybes for me. Honestly, I like Zora's take on High John more. It doesn't matter if High John was a real person supported by historical evidence. What matters is that his spirit is alive and moves within our community. The legend, the myth, the hope that comes with High John will always be and continue to be regardless of the human flesh. And it's that legend and hope that hoodoos gravitate to and thrive on. All right, so I know you didn't come here just to hear me be nerdy about the possible history and absolute legend that is High John de Conka. You know what? You want to make this like practical. You want to know the practical magic of it all. All right. So what do you need to know? The spirit of High John is that of a protector, that of luck, that of success, that of longevity. Like Zora said, the wisdom of the spirit and the root it resides in is that of a B class. Be here when the ruthless man comes, and be here when he is gone. So when we call on High John in times of distress and in need of breakthrough, we call on him to survive. We call on him to carve a path out. When you need that raw power on your side, High John is the spirit to do it for you. All right, so listen, I'm about to hit you with a hard truth. It's a truth that is going to be difficult for some people to swallow. It's a truth that might make some of you very angry with me. It's a truth that might make you turn this podcast off. And that's just a risk I'm going to have to take. The truth is that the purple candle that you have on your altar right now that has a photo of a playing card or King Arthur or an African prince wrapped around it is not what's summoning High John. It's just a candle. Or that spray that has no root in the jar whatsoever and smells a little woodsy and clean. Yeah, that ain't High John either. Or that powder that has purple, confetti flecks, sprinkles. What are they called? Like the sparkly effects in them. That has nothing to do with High John either. Not a damn thing. Welcome to a capitalist society where we slap photos on stuff and sell it to you for $45 a pop because somebody is willing to buy it. That's just the fact of it. So when you see somebody not in our community go off and buy that candle with, the playing card or the King Arthur looking guy or the purple oil or whatever, don't even get yourself upset over it because what they're buying is like High John in name only. It has nothing to do with the spirit of that plant. It has nothing to do with the legend of our people. Hard truth. For me, the spirit of High John requires personal touch, and I would suggest that you try this out for yourself if you would like to incorporate High John into your practice in any meaningful way. So it's better to have access to the actual root itself. Now, the root is not hard to source. It's everywhere online. Just make sure that you get the jalap root, okay? If you're lucky enough to have what's the full scientific name of that plant? It's the Ipomea, Ipomoea, jalap, Jalapa. If you're lucky enough to have that type of morning glory growing near you, go outside and dig up the root. You can go on Etsy and buy the seeds if you want. You can grow the plant yourself, right? But regardless of how you source it, it's better to source the actual root itself. Bonus points if you get it from someone who is an actual conjure person, an actual hoodoo, because how they harvest it might play a role into the magic of it all. Like they have a technique they might use to harvest it, and then they're lending their magic to your magic plus the spirit. That's only a good thing. Now that it's sourced, you can craft with it however you like. In Hoodoo, Conjuration, Witchcraft, and Rootwork, Harry Hyatt's Informants gives us some details. Now, if you listen to my episode Hoodoo Is, you know that when we start talking Zora or Hurston, when we start talking Harry Hyatt, when it comes to actual work to do, we're talking very traditional style root work. So not quite plantation, we're off the plantation now. And not in the internet age, we're talking traditional style root work. So a traditional style root worker from Florida says, I don't know if I want to say this exactly how it's worded or if I just want to read it straight. I'll read it straight. It says you get John the Conqueror and you keep it perfumed with heart's cologne. And that's called the King of the World root. and it'll bring you happiness and good luck. Everything that you undertake, you'll have success at. Right? Another informant from Virginia says you can mix 3 different perfumes and grated High John the Conqueror and rub it to keep anyone from harming you. So I'm guessing that's rub it on you, like rub it on your wrists, rub it behind your ears, wherever. So you put that on you and you keep harm away from you. Another informant from Georgia told Hyatt that, oh Lord, this is a long one. He said, I'm going to just read exactly what he said. He said, they say that if someone wants to hurt you, get a John de Conka root, wrap it up in a piece of cloth with and keep it wet, which means keep it fed, with heart's cologne on the left side nearest to your breast. So you want to wear it on your left side. That'll protect you. Have a John de Conka root in your pocket wrapped up in this cologne nearest to your heart, and get up before sunrise every morning and say your prayers with your mind on this root. They say it helps you. That's what he said. I hope I did the accent justice. Anyway, all of this is pretty practical, right? Again, a lot of traditional hoodoo is very practical. I did find one though that just wasn't practical. Basically, it said that if you want to remove snakes from your belly, so if somebody rooted you and you got snakes in your belly now, if you want to remove snakes from your gut, basically, you want the root to lift what's ailing you. Then you grind down a John the Conqueror root and soak the grinds in hot water. Then you wash the steps to your front porch with it. So have fun with that, I guess. Okay, so here's something that's straight from my field journal. I take John the Conqueror root. I shave some off, or I guess you could leave it whole. And I place it in a bottle of oil. So you can use whatever oil you like. I prefer sunflower oil because it's light in texture and it doesn't give me this like weird ick when it's on my hands. But olive oil also works, and olive oil is very traditional in hoodoo work. I let it sit in a dark place for 7 to 14 days, and boom, now I have homemade John the Conqueror oil. So that purple candle, if I want to buy it, I can anoint it with the John the Conqueror oil. So it's not the candle, it's the oil that's doing the heavy lifting. The candle is there for the flame, the wax for offering, however you want to look at it. But the candle is not what holds John the Conqueror. It's the oil itself that is now infused with it. And of course you can carry it, the root, you can carry it with you in a Mojo bag. I'm a fan of wrapping a petition around it, but that's not completely necessary. And I feed it with whiskey because, all spirits like whiskey. This spirit also likes whiskey. I'm a big fan of the Tennessee honey myself. Any honey brand, sweet whiskey, it's so good. Small batched, oaky barrels, delicious. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. I've heard people take a piece of High John, usually the male shape, and tie it around their body, basically wearing it like an armor before they go into a situation or to stave off illness, that kind of thing. You can shave off some of the root and add it to a loose incense blend or herb blend to burn. Basically, what I'm getting at here is that the root and the spirit within the root requires personal touch. That's what I'm trying to let you know. Hyatt's informants, traditional hoodoos, are telling you that you need the root to do the work. They're telling you that, and if you want to have the protection, if you want to have the luck, if you want to stave off, bad witchcraft, if you want to stave off people hurting you or sending stuff to you, if you want to walk around happy and whole and free, then you need to have the actual root. You can't just go buy the candle, right? And me and all my modern hoodoo glory, I'm advertising the same thing. I'm telling you that you need the root. Okay? There's plenty of things you can do once you have it, but you need the root. And next week, I'm going to tell you the story of Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass. I'm going to tell you how an old school plantation style conjure man gave him the root work for his safety. Like he gave him an actual root to keep him safe. So that's plantation style, traditional, and a modern hoodoo, all telling you that you have to have the root to do the work. The spirit is in the root. The spirit's not in the candle. The spirit's not in, the soap. The spirit's not in that purple looking, oil with a playing card figure on the front. The spirit is in the root. So when you go to the Botanica, don't worry about them purple candles in the back with the pictures on it. Skip past all that shit. Keep the legend of High John on your mind and reach for the root that carries it. Okay. So we've reached the questions and answers portion of our podcast. Usually I take a question from somewhere online and I read it. I've been in Facebook a lot lately, just hanging around. There's some craziness going over there. People who think that black folks aren't from Africa originally, like people making shit up. It's weird. It's weird. But this question comes from Facebook and it says, what deities in hoodoo rule the sign of Leo, Cancer, Virgo, and Scorpio? Those are my big four. That's the question. What deities in hoodoo rule the sign of Leo, Cancer, and Virgo, and Scorpio? Those are my big four. Okay. Okay. So listen. It can be argued that there are no deities in hoodoo. I think the word we're looking for is spirits, like what spirits in hoodoo, maybe. So spirits like High John the Conqueror, Stagger Lee, people call on John Henry, people call on, all that kind of stuff, like those kind of spirits. Aunt Nancy, those are spirits found in hoodoo, not necessarily to be called upon and prayed for, but they're a part of the tapestry of the culture, a part of the Black American experience, a part of the folklore, a part of the folk magic, right? So you're not always going to light a candle and pray to these spirits, but you might want to incorporate them into your practice. I can't tell you not to. That's up to you. But there are certain spirits that are like general spirits that are in hoodoo. There's also spirits that are passed from worker to worker. That's very traditional. There's also spirits that are like regional spirits or family spirits that can be worked with or petitioned, I should say, to bring about change in your life. So I wouldn't go so far as to say deities. When you say deities, I start thinking of God, like the Abrahamic God or Hecate or like the Orisha. That's what I start to think of. And I don't think that that's a thing in hoodoo. Not really. Furthermore, and although star signs and astrology and all that stuff is a lot of fun, that also is not native to hoodoo. Yes, the stars in the sky were important. The North Stars in particular is very important. Yes, moon phases might be important. Tells you when to pick up harvest, tells you when to sow, that kind of stuff. But like Leo, Cancer, Virgo, Scorpio, that's all very modern to, hoodoo as a practice. It's not ingrained into the folklore, into the folk culture. So I'm not saying that you can't use those shorthands to understand, our small part of the universe. Sure you can, but it doesn't really have a place in hoodoo in the way in which you're asking it to have. Right? There's no parallels here. between that and like how Greek gods might have correspondences to the Hellenistic Greek gods might have correspondences to certain star signs. Like it's not the same because it's a different culture, and you're essentially layering a magic system or an understanding of the universe on top of one that isn't necessarily compatible. Now, that said, if star signs are your thing, they're not my thing at all. But if they're your thing, then use it in your practice as best as you can. But understand that that's not inherently hoodoo. And so if you're looking for a correspondence there between hoodoo spirits and star signs, then you're probably not going to find it. Okay, that was fun. I enjoy talking about High John. It's not, it's not a deep dive or anything here, but I enjoy talking about the spirits in hoodoo because I feel like this question kind of leads to people expect there to be a deity. People expect it to look like the Orisha traditions or look like the Lawa traditions. Maybe even they said what deities in hoodoo, they might have meant voodoo or vodou. Like they might not have meant hoodoo in their question. Right. But, and I think there's always that parallel that there has to be some sort of God type in the practice, in the magical practice. And that's not always true. Yes, hoodoos believe in spiritual worlds, spiritual matters, but there's not necessarily a deity. And I feel like, if there was ever a present and well-known, overreaching, staple spirit in hoodoo, it's definitely High John. High John more than the others. And he's easily accessible. Like I said, there's so much out there that you can grab that has his name on it, has a photo of something that may reference him on it. But it's so much deeper than that, this spirit of High John. It goes into the plan itself. It goes into the legends. It goes into how we talk about him, how we still incorporate him in our modern practices today. So, yeah, I hope you guys had fun. I had a good time. Before we go, I just want to let you guys know you deserve the world. We as hoodoos, we share those ancestral spirits. It doesn't matter if that spirit is linked to an actual person or not. No amount of manufactured candles or oils will give us the access to them. Instead, we keep these spirits in our practice by petitioning them, by talking about them, by sharing their stories. We keep them in our practice. We keep them sacred because we go to where they are, because we understand truly that if we want to connect to, if we want to incorporate, if we want to petition these spirits, we have to meet them where they are. So reach out to them. And I know for a fact that if you call for your blessing, cousin, they will come to you. You guys have a great one, and I'll see you next time.